What's up, YouTube? I'm Brett from Rants. As always, guys, if y'all enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave that comment down below. We're on the road to 1,000, and we hope you guys will help us get there. Alright, so we got to Season 3, Episode 2 of American Gods. Overall, I enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed getting to know a little bit more about Lakeside. I love the opening scene. It was really ominous. I think it took place back in the 1600s, and I believe that this was the start of where we get to see how Thor got over here into America, because he was called on by those Norse, I don't know what you would call them at that point, Norse traders or something along those lines, or followers of him, praying after they had destroyed a Native American village, and basically threw out the god that was, or the Native American god, from that realm. It also really kind of gives Lakeside this really eerie feel, because you kind of know the dark backstory, and then you turn directly around and you see, okay, you got this dark backstory of this, but then you got this just lovable Midwestern town that, you know, is just fun. Like, it's interesting to just get to know these people. They're interesting characters, each one of them. They're likable. There's no one in Lakeside that I've hated that much. I've enjoyed the property manager. I've enjoyed what is her name? Anne Marie. I've enjoyed enjoyed the cop. All of these characters. I believe her name is Allison as well. I mean, the girl that goes missing at the end of the episode. I enjoy all these different characters. I'm curious to see, what their dark history actually is. There's some things that swapped around from the books to the series, so it's kind of a little bit new to me, and I haven't read the books in forever. So all of this Lakeside stuff I barely remember, but I do remember I wasn't necessarily my favorite part of the book, but I like it so far in the series. But like I said, I enjoyed the opening scene. I thought it was wonderful. I just feel like that was the perfect scene that you could do for going into Lakeside. This was the kind. See, these are the kind of openings that make American Gods a great show. You know, I was complaining about in my WandaVision episode 1 and 2 review that they didn't add context and they didn't add mystery. Well, in just one scene or two scenes, the scene of the Norsemen killing the Native Americans, and then showing present day of that town and how friendly and lovable these people are, it brings context to what is this evil that's lurking beneath it, and that you know that there's not something right. So you're intrigued about the mystery about it. You know that these people aren't exactly what they seem to be. So overall, I enjoyed that. I tell you, the Shadow Moon Buffalo scene, that was really cool. I don't really understand what his connection with Bilquis is. I'm not really a fan of Bilquis, to be honest with you. I think she's, I don't know, she's just not a character I really got into. You know, when you've got characters like, Wednesday and Zariah, and all these different really interesting, Mad Sweeney. You've got all these interesting characters, and then you add Bilquis to it, and she just kind of, I don't know, she doesn't intrigue me. Like what Mr. Nancy and some of these the Jen and some of these others that we've come to see, like even Chernabog. Like, there's so many they have so much personality to them. But Bilquis is just, to me, just kind of like, eh. She doesn't have anything that intrigues me. But this scene with Shadow Moon, this showing kind of a little bit, I don't know if this is a dream sequence or if this is something that kind of happened in his past. I don't really understand. I didn't really understand that aspect of it. But he's just a kid and he's going through this store, and then all of a sudden, Bilquis shows up in this magazine. He sees her, and then he gets chased by this buffalo through the store with its eyes blazing, and it all. I didn't really understand the connection of how that is of two paths that was played upon by Zariah later on. But apparently it meant something. Maybe I just completely went over it. I don't know. But I didn't really understand how that played a role in the current episode. Maybe it'll play a bigger role in upcoming episodes. But the Anne Marie character from Lakeside, I just have to touch on her character for a little bit. She is such a wonderful actress. I don't know that actress's name. I know I've probably seen her in other things, but she just plays this like friendly, wonderful human being kind of like character. And I'll admit, the whole time they were talking about the history of Lakeside and all that other stuff, all she got me to thinking about was pastries. Like, that was all I had in my mind. After that, I was like, after I watched the episode, I was like, I'm gonna get me something sweet after that. Like, there's just like, it was just, man, she just made it just sound so good. Like, but it just kind of had her character gives that town just like this hometown feel, and you really see how even Shadow Moon, who is really kind of just wants a normal life to a certain extent, how he kind of is playing right into this. He's not understanding the ominous nature, which he should, because anything that has to do with Mr. Wednesday is there's always something underneath. There's always something bad underneath. Let's just put it that way. But yeah, overall, I do have to touch back on Bilquis for just 1 second. Her killing that IT mogul. I don't know. To me, it showed that she's still kind of playing both sides. That being an IT mogul that she killed, it kind of, it tells you right off the bat, he's like, hey, I'm paying for basically everything you've got here. So, it's saying that, she's still kind of in league with Tech Boy. But her killing that IT mogul might be showing a divide now. Because, look, when you're starting to kill his followers, he ain't going to pay for your rent. Let's just put it that way. Like, so now I think maybe that was the turning point where she's like, okay, you know what? I'm going with the old gods. I'm not going to deal with these new gods. She never felt right there. And so I'm glad to at least see that aspect of it. Her killing the guy, the way she kills him. I guess that's supposed to be cool to a certain extent, but we've seen it before, and I'm like, just get it over with and move to the next scene. That's the way I felt towards it. But yeah, Tyr. The last time I heard about anything with Tyr was the, this is going to be kind of silly in a way, but when I think of Tyr, I immediately go to God of War now. Because he didn't show up in the new God of War game, but he was a big part of it. And so when he showed up as this like creepy dentist, at first I was like, who is this supposed to be? Like the Tooth Fairy? Like, it was just weird. He pulls out that tooth and he's just looking at it and blood's all in his hand, things like that. And then you see him just licking his hand, and I'm like, that's like incredibly gross. I didn't really understand the aspect of why he gave money to Mr. Wednesday's cause. I don't really understand what that's really supposed to really supposed to accomplish. He shows back up at Zariah's funeral, or one of the Zariah sisters' funeral, and they kind of have like this little back and forth, him and Mr. Wednesday. But you know that these two, they have a shared history, and there's gonna be a break somewheres in there. You can just kind of tell it. I think Mr. Wednesday already kind of knows it as well. Um, Another thing is I was actually kind of glad to see Salim back. Um, it's kind of sad what happened between him and the Jinn, but this is one thing that I always wonder. I wondered when I saw that scene. Um, does does the Jinn really love Salim? Like at least as much as what Salim loves him, because there's a certain aspect of the Jinn that kind of, I don't know, kind of looks at Salim as kind of beneath him. That he's, this mortal character that just doesn't get it. He's already made fun of Salim's God. He doesn't. And to me, when that happened in season two, that was that would be like, in just a real life, a real life relationship. When you disrespect somebody's religion or something that is very intricate and meaningful to someone, you're disrespecting them as an individual. And when he did that, I was like, ooh, that's kind of a low blow for that Jinn. Like, I get it. He's supposed to be kind of one of those characters that just don't care. But I just even kind of thought that was a low blow for him. So I didn't enjoy. I enjoyed that Salim is back. I'm curious to see if it really was Mr. Wednesday that broke them up, or if it was the Jinn. Salim actually believes that it's Mr. Wednesday that did it. I kind of will go towards that Mr. Wednesday. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't shock me if it was just the Jinn just realizing, hey, you know what? They're just not meant to be. Like, they're just not meant to be for numerous different reasons, whether it being him being immortal, or and the other one being immortal, or if it is, or if it has to do with the whole deity thing. And, I'm just curious if it has to do with any of that, or if he's afraid for Salim's life with what is to come. But again, I was glad to see Chernabog. I thought Chernabog reminding Shadow Moon that basically that he owes him his head is actually was kind of a fun, priceless comment that goes back to season one. I remember when I first saw him in season one, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna like this character, but he's actually a character that I kind of wish, in this, he's like this grungy kind of like character, but he's like somebody that, I don't know, I would like to get to know more of. I wish they would show more of him instead of him just popping up every now and then. I didn't really understand Chernabog's. I enjoyed Chernabog's and Wednesday's banter that they did, kind of back and forth, but I didn't really understand why Chernabog is kind of pissed that he showed up there at Zariah's funeral. Like, I didn't really understand that. He acts like, oh, well, he's my enemy, but then he gets reminded really quick that he's he's indebted to Mr. Wednesday. And so then he just turns around on a dime and they become like friends again. Like the worst kind of friends, like the kind of friends that really you don't really like, but yet they're your great drinking buddies. And that's kind of the way the Chernabog Mr. Wednesday relationship seems to really work. But yeah, that Zariah, I think her name is Zariah or Zoria. I'd never get the name right. Really calling out to Shadow Moon and kind of reminding him of basically his dark side. And that he basically has two paths. there's a part of him that is Mr. Wednesday, and I think that sometimes the fans forget that. Um, there's a part of Shadow Moon that relates to Mr. Wednesday because Mr. Wednesday is his father. And, you know, it's not the best part of Shadow Moon. Shadow Moon, we have seen a dark side of Shadow Moon before. So it's not that shocking that he finally admits that, you know what, there's a part of him that doesn't crave the normal life. There's this battle in him of where he's wanting the power and the control that Mr. Wednesday has instead of that normal life. And so while that battle wages, he's kind of in between. And she reminds him, hey, there's these two paths. Which path are you going to choose? And of course, I think we probably all know exactly which path he's going to choose. But it's just, you saw it with, I think his name was Donner, Thor. You saw it a few, when he appeared in the show. Him being Mr. Wednesday's son was a terrible task. And it was a task that he couldn't endure any longer. And it just kind of makes you wonder now that Shadow Moon knows a little bit more about him, whether he's willing to go down that same path. And that's something that I'm curious to see in future episodes. If maybe that story of Thor actually was a good outlier for what Shadow Moon will end up doing, or whether he'll go down the same path as what Thor did, where it just Mr. Wednesday becomes too much, he ruins too much of his life, or whether he'll break apart from it and that want for that normal life will come back to him. I'm just curious to see which side will win with him. Another thing, I'm not really quite sure exactly why Shadow Moon is just immediately the main suspect in Allison. I think her name is Allison's disappearance at Lakeside. I mean, like, he showed no. I get he's a new guy in town, but he showed no ill will or resentment or anything that's kind of dangerous. I kind of feel like it's kind of odd that they would just immediately just be like, you're the murderer, basically. And somehow they tried to bring it, well, it's because of the windshield being broke, and I didn't really get that. Like, what was that really supposed to mean? In a lot of ways, did they think that he ran over or something along those lines and broke the windshield? Like, I didn't really quite understand that. And then the cop kind of just realized that, it wasn't Shadow Moon. So to me, what was the point of that? Because it really did. It ended so quickly. Like, it didn't go into the next episode, this suspicion. It just kind of just began when he come back into town, and then it just ended like 10 minutes later. Like, so I didn't really understand what was even the point of even bringing that out as him being a main suspect. I enjoyed the property manager and him's kind of back and forth. That something happened to her son, and she's hiding a dark history about that. But I can see she's probably going to be kind of like the good guy in all this. One and probably an ally for Shadow Moon later on. So I'm curious to see how their relationship, even, I don't mean relationship in a sexual way, but friendship relationship kind of goes in this. I would also love to know exactly if that was Bilquis that showed up as the peacock in the forest. What was the point of that? Like, what was the point of her showing up and, in that way? And why didn't, it's not like she hasn't interacted with Shadow Moon before. What was the point of showing up as the peacock? That didn't make any sense to me. The last scene, though, the last scene was really cool, where you see that bird god, that Native American bird god that you see at the very first scene of this episode. You see it, you see it flying over the river in the first scene, and then you see it flying over the town, and it looks like it's a million times bigger as it just makes a shadow completely over the town. I mean, of course, you see that car that's just out in the middle of nowheres, and then you just see, that bird just flying over it, just blacking out everything. And I'm curious to see exactly where that is going. But overall, I just thought that aspect just gave it a really creepy feel, really eerie feel. Overall, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was. I won't say that it pushed the story forward, but it definitely added some intriguing aspects about kind of Shadow Moon's character. Of course, we got refreshed with some characters we hadn't seen in a while, so that was always nice too. There was some cool scenes with Soraya putting that, throwing that coin in the air and lighting up the sky. Like, that was a really cool scene. The bird scene was really cool, flying over the town, and getting a little bit backstory about Lakeside, or the town, was actually really kind of interesting as well. So overall, I really enjoyed this episode. I can't wait for episode 3. As always, guys, if y'all enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave that comment down below. Let me know what you thought of season 3, episode 2 of American Gods. As always, take care, guys.